trying to do with the Senate. My question to you comes as a Queenslander who was affected by the mandates and apparently is no longer with present children in schools. How can we, Queenslanders, with a leader like Palaszczuk who changes laws and stuff quicker than most change their undies, how can we feel safe and secure in Queensland? What can we do to try to fix things when the conflicts of interest and corruption is so wrong?
Look, you know, that's a very good question. And, you know, I've kind of, you know, this is a learning experience for me as well. And I will, you know, you've got to get involved politically. This is a political problem. And my advice, like, is, I don't know how many people here, maybe 60 to 80 people. You know, if you're all to join the same political party and get active and get someone there, you know, and I'm staying in the LNP, I want to, you know, because I think the LNP, even though I've had issues and, you know, I mean, I believe I've stuck to the values of the LNP, which is the dignity and worth of every individual. I want to see those values upheld within the party. It needs a political solution. Now, unfortunately, we've got to wait a long time, but that's one way. The other way is through your community groups, is to get involved with your community groups and try and raise awareness that way. The other way is to talk to your politicians and put pressure on them. I have to admit I'm rallied out. I went to a lot of rallies in the last 8 months, but I'm not going to go to them anymore. Someone who's on our side said to me yesterday, and I must admit it's the first time I heard this and I've never ever for a minute thought of it like this. He said, for every one person that goes to a rally, you'll turn 2 people off. And I was surprised by that because, and I must admit I'm not a normal shouting loud from the rooftops type of guy, but I think we need to be more strategic and precise in trying to get the reins of power. And I think, and unfortunately that's not a short-term solution, but you know, we've got to get, I mean, the way forward is to get rid of Labor. And then to make sure that if the LNP gets in, they stick to the values of their party. And I bang heads with my colleagues over this. You know, I'm going to say, and I believe, you know, dignity and worth of every individual, freedom of choice, freedom of conscience, free speech is what we say we believe in. We also believe in small government. What happened in the last 2.5 years was not small government, it was totalitarian government, and reward for effort. And, you know, they just smashed working age people altogether. So when I say what, you know, the state premiers, everyone. Look, there's a lot of ways. It's not easy. This long march of the totalitarian state, they control our institutions. They have been through our bureaucracies. They're in our education system. They've come into the corporate boardroom via the back door via industry super funds. You know, we are way behind in terms of those of us who want the individual and empower the individual, but we have to get involved actively in various institutions. Now, some of you might want to join politics, totally cool, get it, you know. So get involved with your PNC or some other, you know, community group that may have an influence. I know this is all very high level and, you know, not really specific, but unfortunately it's going to be the long game here. Because we are so, like, the left, well, I shouldn't say the left, the totalitarian guys have come through these institutions for such a long time. We've got a lot of work to do to make up. So, long story short, there's no quick fix. I wish there was. I do, however, think if we keep speaking up, that the tide's turning. I noticed John Gerard, he was interviewed in the last couple of days, and he said we don't want to go back to mandates, we don't want to open and close, and he looked very sheepish about continuing on. I mean, I won't pretend to know the guy, but, and interestingly enough, they deleted a bit, I'm going to put it up on Facebook, they deleted a bit where he obviously went on and said something that State Labor didn't want him, you know, wanted to go public, so they've just blotted it out and then they've resumed later on. It's quite incredible. But in the short term, we just keep speaking up. You know, it's a bit crude, but you know, I go in and troll those mainstream media pages on Facebook and social media and let them know that you know, what you're doing isn't right, because they need to know about this. They need to know that their customers and their readers aren't happy. because, you know, they control the message. It's a very thin funnel, narrow funnel, they get that message through. So if we start shutting down their message and their fear-mongering, that I think is one short-term way of you know, trying to, shut down the fear-mongering. So, you know, like I said, it's not really what I thought I was going to sign up for, is running around trolling mainstream media stuff. But it's not a bad idea. It's one way, because they do. That's what they do with us, right? I mean, they control the narrative and give us all this fear-mongering. So we've got to, you know, be belligerent and push back on that sort of stuff. I'll just go. Yep.
From what I can understand, you're a believer in the system as it stands. I can tell you now, right now, the voting system is corrupt. How are you going to change the country back to what you want if the voting system, the very thing that you rely on, will work?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah.
Being in the situation of watching votes getting moved in Queensland. That's why we have a mayor in this town that has no support. Who supports the mayor? Who supports the premier? Please tell me how you're going to get them out.
Okay, so that's a very good question. I mean, there's a couple of ways. First of all, you know, with your political parties, they are allowed to scrutineer.
Doesn't work.
Well, okay, hang on, just hear me out. I'm not saying it does.
What I'm saying is the system doesn't work.
Okay, so I'm answering your question now. Yeah.
Your preferential voting, as we found out at the last election.
Okay, yes, okay. So can I just,
I think I might know a bit more about this than you do.
Okay, well, good on you, mate. If you feel like that, run for politics, right? I'm not saying I've got all the answers here. I'm trying to answer a question that you asked.
I'm Queensland Director for Bosing, right?
For who?
Ricardo Bosing.
Right, okay.
I'm also Council Regulatory Ratepayers Association.
Yeah.
I also get involved in all this stuff, and that's why I'm here tonight.
Yeah.
But I'm getting very sick and tired. People that would go up there for leaders like yourself have no answer, because we know the systems are corrupted.
Well, can you let me try and give you an answer? Okay, so where were we? Okay, so first of all, one of the ways is you use scrutineers in parties, right? So you've got to have everyone scrutineering there. The one thing I don't like, and it concerns me greatly, is postal voting. It may have been a time once where postal votes was needed, but I think where a real weakness in the system is in postal voting. I think that, you know, you literally, you know, there's got to be a very good reason why you postal vote. That would have to be people in age, and even aged care centres and things like that. You can probably, you know, but so I've got a big issue with postal votes. I would like to see them go. I would like to see all that pre-poll stuff go. When I first voted in the late 80s, we voted on the Saturday. You needed a very good reason to vote early, because my concern is all those pre-poll votes sit around in boxes for weeks. You know, while I say you can scrutinise, I don't know that you can scrutinise postal votes, or you probably can, but whether or not the box got shifted around, and I don't know if you can scrutinise, well, you know, yet again, yes, you can scrutinise pre-poll votes, but whether or not it's a fail-safe system, you know, I think there's possibly gaps there. The other thing, and I mean, I'd be curious to do a bit of a hand poll here. Who would back digital voting, where you've got to produce your digital ID? Because some people, not your digital ID, your driver's licence, sorry. No, well, so there you go.
You can go and vote and get your name marked off with your voting card that they give you to scan it. And then you get a letter in the mail saying you didn't vote.
So that's the thing, right? So how then do you stop people from going to 10 voting booths if you don't have to show...
Yeah, you should need to show some ID even now. It's ridiculous that you don't.
But so who thinks you should show your driver's licence when you vote? Right? Or some form of ID, and sorry, I shouldn't have said digital ID. I mean, you know, like ID. And who thinks you shouldn't show any ID?
Shouldn't there be just general flags in the system when this person's name keeps coming up? Because it doesn't matter whether you've got the barcode or anything. It doesn't matter.
Well, you can go, if you live in a bunch of apartment blocks, over a period of 3 years, you could go around stealing other people's mail out of those mailboxes and then use their name and address, when you go up if you don't have ID.
So what's the point of getting your vote marked off? It's not even, it's so corrupt, it's a joke.
Well, I would have thought you don't get it crossed off. It's in the, like they've got the electoral roll, and then they tick your box in the electoral roll. So you're going to need, okay, so you've got the issue of you can have people voting multiple times, voting early, voting off and all that stuff, right? I would think, and I'm open to the crowd here, that you would need, if you showed your ID, or you produce, it's an electronic thing in terms of your voter ID, your electoral roll. You're on an electoral roll, so you're in the system, right? It's there in the computer system somewhere, so that at least if someone voted twice, it would get flagged.
Yeah.
Because you can't even go to a concert on the same ticket as your mate, you know? You've got to buy your own ticket.
Yeah, right, okay. But then if you were an innocent person, someone stole your mail, you went and voted, they said, no, you've already voted once, and you said, well, that's not true because here I am, here's my ID. So there's some issues there that, you know, ID could possibly reduce fraud there. So there's various ways, but it's never going to be easy voting 15 million votes, and I'm not saying there's not issues with it. But I definitely don't like the postal voting. Did anyone watch that 2,000 Mules?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's big problems there. No, I asked about that. We don't use the same lot as them. And then the postal votes and the worry me, and I just don't like the 2 to 3 weeks pre-poll because there's, like I said, I mean, it may be ways to crack the system. So
what has been witnessed here in the last election of a lack of chain of custody for the pre-polling votes?
yeah,
Putting one person in a car, boxes not zip tied, you know, and you just don't know where they went, you know, were they counted?
that's a very good point, and that's my point. If everyone had to vote on the day, right, and the boxes were there, and then you shut the doors at 6 o'clock, the scrutineers are there, and you start counting there and then, rather having these boxes going in and out of cars, I think that, you know, I think that would reduce a lot of fraud. I'm not a big fan of
It's a cardboard box.
How would you do it?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's not
like,
even secure.
well, that's what I'm saying. But they get to it. So you can have scrutineers there. So, but that's what I'm saying. Like the longer that the window, the time frame is open,
right.
the greater the risk.
But we need that because everybody used to not work on a Saturday except till 12 o'clock. And
So
the
how
voting
do
was
you
always on a Saturday.
Well, you can open at
Everybody
6 and go from 6 to 6 or 6 to 7.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
That we had with that particular day, and I think
Yeah.
one, people were being told they were not allowed to vote with pens, they had to use pencils.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is a lie.
Okay, well that's fine. Use pens. So there's no argument for me on that. Yeah, I realise that. Yeah. So I don't support that, right? So yeah.
So do those scrutineers not count our vote if we used a pen?
Well, they should. Well, that's why you need your
Because it's
scrutineers
just a
there
joke.
to go when they're counting. So that's why you've got it. You know, that's the scrutineers should sit there and argue and say, no, that vote's legitimate. And if it's not legitimate, then you've got to get your party reps to complain to the AEC. Now, you know, like I sit there with the TGA banging my head up against the wall, I will accept that complaining to the AEC is not the same as fixing the problem. But you've got to at least, you know, have your scrutineers there and identify the problem. Once you've got proof of evidence of something going wrong, then that will at least give you the platform to argue your case.
Like he said before, it's the
party does.
voting. It's
So-
the voting. It's that issue that you cannot fix at the moment. We have no hope.
What do you mean? Which issue, sorry?
The voting issue, the corruption and the
How do we
rigmarole.
hold the AEC responsible for their
They won't take responsibility.
Yeah, how do you?
Well, that's wrong. Okay, so you need to. So that's wrong. If you've got evidence of whereby votes with pens weren't recognised, then that needs to be recorded, and then that needs to be documented and taken to the AEC. Now, as I said, we know what the bureaucracy's like. It
So do
doesn't
we
mean
have
they'll
to
fix the
video
problem.
ourselves going to vote though?
When I went in, I got told that if I voted with pen, my vote will not be counted. And I turned around and responded to them, how the hell would you know if I used pen or pencil? Because I folded before I put it in the box. What, you're going to check it before I put it in the box? That's illegal.
Yeah, okay. Look, there's no argument for me from that. Well, then that needs to get resolved before the next election. But I accept it's a risk, right? Like I'm, you know, yeah. Okay, I'll take that question then.
Okay, so when I started voting, we used to put our votes in a wooden box that was locked with a padlock.
Yeah.
Now we put them in a $5 plastic tub you bought at Bunnings with a slot cut in the top.
Yeah.
And zip ties you could buy at any business is zipped it up. Okay? So of course it can be tampered with or broken into very easily. Easy. Go back to decent secure containers.
Yep.
Get rid of the Ziplocs and you can get cipher seals, wafer seals, or even cipher zip ties that are numbered
Yep.
and registered, so you'll know straight
That's
away
right.
if it's been tampered
That's
with.
what
And if it's been
electricians do.
tampered with,
Yeah.
you isolate
So
it,
simple.
you then get police in, forensically check that box,
Yep.
under video surveillance, fingerprint it, whatever, and you reduce the risk. So there's no need to can pre-poll voting. You just need to have systems in place that are not exactly foolproof, because you can make something foolproof, but a sufficiently talented fool will come along and prove
Yeah,
it
no,
wrong.
that's a good idea.
It's
Yep,
so
yep,
simple.
no worries. Yeah, and the lady in the green top.
I disagree with a lot of what you say, but, and a lot of your beliefs, but I want to thank you for standing up for the victims of the vaccine injuries. There were very few people that stood up, and when my son had an adverse reaction, I emailed you around Facebook to you and told you about his adverse reaction. He was forced to do his work, he's from a low socioeconomic family, he had no choice but to stay on property. He got back to me straight away. I really want to thank you for standing up for all those people who have been injured. My son hasn't got it, he put in his forms, he hasn't got anything back, he didn't get any compensation for being injured by his vaccine. And of course, because I chose not to go back to I think, the hospital with him when he got one to about it.
Yeah.
But I do want to thank you for standing up for those lot of people who've been gaslighted by everyone, by every institution, and the right from the left.
Yeah.
Discussed and have treated all these people who have been injured, all these people with concerns, all these people who want to stand up to own body integrity, people complaining about abortion in America, and yet do the same thing, condemning us who choose not to have vaccines.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Look, I think half the people here know, people are talking left and right,
Yeah.
you're the same bird, different wings. This political thing you're talking about is rubbish. The whole system is cracked and it always was. You don't know your history. 1770s is when this started. The corporate fascist system. Corporations are fascist by default. The state is fascist by default.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
Your system, which you support and are part of, is fascist by default.
How long have you been here for?
Sorry?
How long have you been here? The whole
time.
Okay, because I just said that it's about big versus small. So I'm not sure if
It
you
doesn't matter.
understood what I said,
It
but
doesn't
anyway.
matter.
Yeah.
You're a believer in the system. Okay? You're a
Yeah.
believer in the system. The education system is nothing but a propaganda indoctrination system. The police system is nothing but a corporate system protecting the interests of the corporations and oppressing the people. The whole system, every institution, every political party,
look,
it's
mate.
all part of the same corrupt system designed perfectly, and this whole thing that's happening, which you're talking about, is all planned precisely.
Okay, fine.
Precisely.
Okay, well I hold the view that it's better to be in the tent than outside the tent. And as I said, I'm running because I believe in my children and out of gratitude towards my
Yeah, and that's great. It's good that you have some compassion
Yeah.
for people who've been injured.
Yeah.
But the Supreme Court decisions in other countries prove that anyone who accepted and consented to the vaccine has committed suicide.
Yeah, okay, well that wasn't my decision, so...
No, but
yeah.
what I'm saying is, how come that's not getting out? Where's that in your broadcast? Where's that?
Well, mate, I try and post a lot of stuff that, so I'm not, but I try to stick to
It's all
Australian
right, it's
issues.
all right. Look, I know politics is a game of what is possible and what's achievable.
Yeah.
But you're in the game.
Yeah, I am.
okay?
Yeah, I'm
And
trying
you're
to.
connected to the LNP, who was the federal government. Okay? You shot this fella down here talking about the truth about the Constitution. Okay? You shot him down and you shut him up because he said the ALP and the political parties aren't mentioned in the Constitution. So guess what? You guys are part of the problem because
Okay,
you are part of the
fine,
system.
Yeah.
Stop.
Okay, next one. Purple. Yeah, purple shirt. It's all right. Let it go.
Oh my
Go, Deborah.
Get your nose out his ass.
Go, Deborah.
Right, I'll take that question. Just silence, guys. I'll just can I take? Yeah. Yeah.
Hey guys,
Yeah.
we listen to you. You got to let other people speak.
Yeah.
It's not just Australia. I'm from Holland. There's lots of things going wrong there too.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
things going wrong here, around the world. I'm a Christian, so I believe there's a lot of good and evil in the world. And so I see that it's not just Australia. Like even if throughout history, there's so many bigger things going on because it's not just Australia that's struggling with voting that's going wrong, with all this vaccination. It's not just Palaszczuk or whoever. It's also in America. It's in Holland. It's in Singapore. It's in every country.
That's the who.
So it's not just the Australian politicians who are maybe not very right and very corrupt. It's everywhere. So it's not so much a question, but it's just a reminder that it's everywhere. So we can't just point fingers because there's evil people and who knows it's the who or who.
Yeah, look, that's a very good point. And can I say, I was lucky enough to live in Amsterdam for 3 years when I was younger, and I had a great time. I love the Dutch. And I was also lived in the States for a while, and I love the American people as well. And, you know, one of the great things when I travelled the world was that I realised, you know, it's all about the individuals, and people would often say to me, what did you learn when you travelled? And it was that we're all the same. You know, and if there's anything that binds us, it's our common hatred of government and too much power being centralised. But I do agree with you. It's a product of, I guess, the world is getting smaller through technology. And, you know, I believe that, you know, one thing that really inspires me is the Enlightenment, where we had these great philosophers like Rousseau and John Locke and Bacon and a bloke I really like, George Hegel. And then in 1776, you know, that Enlightenment and that philosophy of the Enlightenment, that was really the first time they started to empower the individual and overturn the hereditary rights of kings and queens. It really manifested itself in the 1776 Revolutionary War. And those founding fathers of America, you know, the US, the United States, really inspire me. And I don't know if you've noticed, but I refer a lot to American presidents because the way they fought for those freedoms and empowered individuals, you know, as I heard one commentator in the States say, the only way to beat 1984 is 1776. And of course, as you know, 1984 is George Orwell and it's all about Big Brother. But it's those patriots back in 1776. Now, our own forefathers, often many who started off here as convicts, who basically built this country up through hard work. And we do have, you know, there is sort of higher levels up there, and I don't want to go too far into that and impute motive. I am aware of that, and the only way to beat those people is basically spreading the power of the individual throughout the world and standing up, you know, for individual rights no matter what country you're from. And actually, I did a post today where I posted about Donald Trump Jr. made quite some pertinent remarks about Hunter Biden, but I put an extra comment in there to say I don't want to turn this into an anti-USA thing, or an anti-Russian thing, or an anti-Ukraine thing. It is not about the people. It's about holding our institutions to account, and they need to be transparent and they need to be accountable. And I feel like they're abusing their powers, you know, a lot lately. It's getting worse, so we've got to push back on that. So yeah. Can I just take one more question? And then, I do 2 more questions and then we'll call it quits.
Okay, thank you. This is about biosecurity, and as a primary producer, every year we need to do all these modules about biosecurity and the rest of it. So on the ABC the other day, the reporter came on and said, if foot and mouth disease, which is prevalent in Indonesia, comes to Australia in any manner or form, or even if they think they've got it, all cattle movements will be stopped, all cattle in Australia will be slaughtered. So I'm just wondering why biosecurity isn't doing something about all these plane loads of people that are going to Indonesia, and I know some friends of mine went the other day, and when you're in Indonesia, you can do a quad safari or whatever. They all came back with dirty boots, and everybody else that comes back up in top
Look, that's very, yeah.
What are they doing? They get a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars every year, and they're already saying what they're going to do to all livestock in Australia, which is probably part of the, new net defence program. I'm sure that it will come, because they always tell you what's going to happen before it does come, so they can wipe our industry and our food out. Same as with the weather anomalies that you have. I mean, there's a man called Dave Brooks who has been following this for 20 years, and he said when all those floods were down in Ballon and all the rest of it, he said, oh look, they're seeding and chem spraying over here near the Timor Sea, and the poor people in northern New South Wales are going to be hit again. And he said they're going to be hit again and hit again. He knew that was going to happen before it happened. So why doesn't the government know? Why doesn't somebody look back up?
Look, can I just touch on the foot and mouth thing? I must admit, I don't know why, given the potential risk, and obviously it's hard because I'm doing messages and everything a lot to know exactly what they've said in terms, but if the downside risk is that they're going to shut down the beef industry, I don't know why we just don't stop travel to Indonesia until foot and mouth is controlled in Indonesia, with the greatest respect to Indonesians, of course, until that problem's solved. I mean, we've got 3,000
They shut it down for a pandemic, but they won't shut it down.
Well, and I accept that point. I think you make a fair point there. I mean, we've got thousands of kilometres of coastline here, or you can go to other beaches. I prefer we holiday here, but that's a very good question, and I'm going to ask a few of those questions
They need
myself.
to be held accountable before it all happens.
Absolutely, and I think they like to use the precautionary principle and shut down a lot of things. So
They know what they're going to do, so stop it.
We've got thousands of kilometres between each station with these catches, so why does the whole bloody lot have to be wiped out?
Well, that's and I haven't heard that comment because I don't pick up on everything, but that to me would seem extreme. And if that's what they're talking about, if that's what they're talking about already, then they should, if that's the risk that's involved, the downside risk that will destroy, the beef industry is one of our biggest industries in Queensland, then they should stop travel to Indonesia until such time as it gets sorted out, rather than let it come in and then try and fix it. It's much easier.
It's disproportionate. They're doing the same with the bees. The bees can be thousands of kilometres apart.
That's right.
But they've turned
That's
around
the
and said,
example.
no, you're going to kill your hide. You're going to kill your
Yeah,
hide.
and that's
without justification
and that's
without
typical.
evidence that their hives are even contaminated.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I have read about that. I thought it was only an area around you. Have they extended that area around Newcastle?
I don't know, but
It's the
even the area that's contained, there's no evidence that some of these hives have even been infected, but they've been told
It's a
you have to
precaution.
destroy your bees.
Yeah, okay. I don't know enough to know. I mean, that does sound like overkill. Like I said, I don't have detail in every topic.
It just doesn't make
but I
sense.
do with the beef one. I did have a conversation about that today.
And what was the response?
Well, it was with someone like myself who was saying, well, we don't know why we don't stop travelling in Indonesia until we sort it out. But I am going to put that on my action list. I'm just up here in North Queensland this week, but I'll get
Thank
onto
you
it.
so much.
I mean, I'll raise it. Whether or not we get the solution, but I'll definitely push that issue for sure. I mean, I'm from a cattle property as well, so yeah. And ask questions.
That just feels like to me they're wrecking the economy and they're controlling the economy and how they do it and making it sound like semi-legit. But I want to know, if all of you guys, the little people, are individual and we're all individual, how do you start the revolution? How?
Well, look, I mean, it's obviously from the people up, right? So.
Well, is it?
Well, that's how. I mean, we're a long way behind. Like I'm saying, right? Like I mean, the revolution has started in the bureaucracy many years ago. So as I said, you've got to
We're always going to be behind. You can never get in front of that.
Well, you can.
But
You can if you get the
change.
volume. Yeah.
So what are you and your mates that all believe the same as us, like you're saying, going to do? Because no one can do it by themselves.
No, I agree with that. Yeah.
The numbers and the actual weight. We need weight behind any numbers.
Exactly.
How
So,
do we get that?
well, we've got to start to get the message out there about what's going on, and then bring more and more
But they
people.
showed that in Canberra with that massive bloody protest
So
they
do you
had,
have-
and Australia's still not listening.
Well,
So,
I know, and
That's my point. I went to Canberra, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How do you keep that momentum going for that when there's everything fighting against us to stop us from getting heard, stop people speaking out, and stop the truth? Yeah. It's
But
actually
yeah, look, I mean, it's not easy. Look, it's not easy. So we need to get. I mean, and I push my
the
colleagues.
media is a lot to blame.
Oh,
for.
absolutely, and that's
So
what, you know.
Not just ABC,
And social
Yeah.
platforms.
all the media and all the power that the digital age has given is to blame it for a lot of this, of why we're stagnating sitting here.
Yeah, so we've got to call it out. I mean, and push back and get more and more people involved.
But our politicians don't really want to talk to us either.
Well, I mean, I hear that a lot. Yeah, I hear that a lot, and that frustrates me as well. I mean, I spend a lot of my time, you know, I'm doing correspondence 2 o'clock in the morning, I'm 5 o'clock. You know, I have to keep up with it or I fall behind.
We need to.
But at the same time too, I've got to also talk to the power, you know, the people in charge and try and.
We need to get on the
Yeah, like I do think, you know, I mean, this is
They're
where we
going to
come
wear
back to
everybody down.
constitution.
They're just going to wear everybody down.
That's exactly what they do. That is exactly
But
what
we got
they
to,
do.
what can we do to stop that?
Well,
I've
well-
got kids.
I've had 4 30-day bans from Facebook alone just for asking questions.
Yeah. Look,
I'm
I
apparently
accept.
being-
Yeah, I mean, look, I wish I could solve those problems, and I'm not going to pretend that I can because, but I'm trying to raise those issues. But we
That's
need.
where we need to start. There's nothing else. Until this happens, there's nothing else matters. They're going to continue.
Oh, I totally agree. I mean,
what they
as I
do.
said, this is the hill
It
that I'm
doesn't matter
dying
whether
on.
you're LNP or ALP.
Yeah,
it doesn't
exactly.
matter.
That's right. It's about, you know, as I said, this is the hill I'm dying on. You know, and we've just got to try and keep
So
building up
would you
momentum.
guys be able to get together and do something else?
Well, we're in a bit of trouble at the moment because we don't have the balance of power anymore in the Senate because Labor and the Greens control the Senate, right? So you're going to have to go to the government of the day as well if you want to get anything done
But
in
it
the next
didn't even matter when it was the government of the day, you guys.
Well,
It doesn't matter.
yeah, and look,
the balance of power is so messed up that
Yeah, look,
people
I
don't
agree.
matter.
So, you know, you've got to get involved in politics and get people who are going to fight the fight as well.
Can you make a move?
Excuse me, sir.
Share.
Yeah. Okay.
On which hill are you dying on? And in which tent are you? And are you a Freemason?
No, I'm not a Freemason.
Okay, good. That clears the air
Okay,
there.
the tent I'm dying on is standing up for the Australian peoples, right? So that's the hill. Okay, so that's the hill, I think. That's,
Yeah, he's going to
okay.
set up the state of origin.
Okay, great. No worries. Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.